This section of the DevTrack product expert training will cover using workflows to implement unique work process. Topics covered under this section are concept of workflows, configuring workflows for DevTrack tasks, and advanced workflow options. Every work item follows a workflow right from its creation to its completion. Throughout the workflow, the tasks travel through different states and transitions. These states and transitions are always different for different organizations. Hence, the workflows defined in DevTrack are completely customizable to suit an organization's need. The workflow states and transitions are visible on the DevTrack web. Each task in DevTrack follows a workflow, and depending on the current state, the next set of transitions is loaded. These transitions are visible on the details frame of each task and are based on the defined workflow in the admin panel. For example, based on the current workflow definition, any task in the in-progress state can transition to either of the four states, namely to be reviewed, closed, delayed, and finished. Each transition is denoted by a transition name, and as you see, these transitions are available for each task under the in-progress status. Similarly, these transitions are different based on the task state. Adding a new state and transition becomes very easy with the wizard-driven admin panel. The option to configure workflow settings can be found in the admin panel under the workflow settings of the DevTrack project. To add a new state, right-click on the workflow design and select Add a State option and enter the state name. Once the new state is added, the transition to that state can be created by selecting the originating state and dragging to the new state. Then, from the pop-up dialog box, enter the transition name. Reload the web settings, and this newly created state and transition is now available for the tasks under the in-progress state. In addition to creating states and transitions, DevTrack also offers functionality to trigger various customizable events based on state and transition change. To manage and configure these options, browse to Workflow Options under the DevTrack project in the admin panel. Based on the requirement, users can choose either state-dependent options or transition-dependent options. Based on the selection, the applicable tabs are loaded in the Workflow Settings page. Users can then select advanced workflow details for each state and transition. For instance, to specify access control on the missing info transition, go to Who Can Perform tab and select set of users who are allowed to execute this transition. Before this access control was applied, no workflow transitions were available for the tasks under in-progress status. But now, since we allowed user Terry Johnson to execute the transition, upon refresh, the missing info transition is available for the task. Likewise, users can set read-only fields, invisible fields, mandatory fields, etc. for each listed state and transition. Now, if you want to enforce the users to follow certain field restrictions when moving to a different state, you can do so by selecting the state and then selecting fields which are meant to be read-only, invisible, or mandatory. As soon as the task moves to the target state, the field restrictions are applied. In this case, we made certain fields mandatory, hence these are highlighted in red. Also, users can set conditional transition rules based on the custom-defined queries. These queries will be based on the selected field values, and users can also select the target state. Lastly, user also has the flexibility to define multiple workflows associated to each issue type. To add multiple workflows, first enable the multiple workflow option from the admin panel. Once enabled, the master workflow would contain options to create multiple child workflows. To create one, click on the new workflow option. In the pop-up dialog box, enter the workflow name, select applicable workflow transitions, select default actions if required, and submit the workflow. The workflow then gets added to the master workflow. The user is then allowed to perform all advanced settings on each individual workflow. In order to have these individual workflows kick in, tie them to the various task fields. Go to the Define Issue Type section under the Enterprise Edition features and select the field to be linked. Based on the selection, the issue types will be loaded. Select any issue type and then select the workflow. In this case, we have tied the bug issue type to the newly created bug type workflow. Now, in the DevTrack web portal, for all bug type issues, this new workflow will kick in. Notice that these two tasks are in progress state, but since their issue type is different, two different sets of workflow options are loaded. This concludes the quick demonstration on how workflows can be used to implement a unique process in an organization. For more information, contact info@techexcel.com or call us at 800-439-7782. Thank you.